Oh, look at
Hello,
it's got
everybody. Yeah, we've got people joining now. Just give it a minute just for everyone to join. Okay, while we're waiting, we've got a Q&A area. So if you've got any questions along the way, feel free to pop them in the chat. Between Anthony and Joe, they'll either answer along the way or at the very end. So with that, I will hand over to Simon.
great. Thank you, Danica. Yeah, if you could make those questions hard, that'd be really cool. Thank you, everyone, for taking time away from your day to join us for our infomercial. No, our product brief with Joe Ciardi, who is the technical advocate for Australia and New Zealand for Lenovo for the device range, which is awesome. So that's why we need to throw really tricky questions at Joe. I can see we have Marcus. I can see you've returned. You've gone from brother to Lenovo, so that's good to see you again. And as I say, thank you everyone else for joining us. Now, I shall not dribble on much longer and pass us over to Joe, who's going to share some wonderful information with us. Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure, Simon. Thank you. Now, I'm going to share my screen and I'll get anyone that wants to yell out, just to yell out if you can't see that. Otherwise, I'll just kick straight in. So I really appreciate, thanks, Danica, for the confirmation. I really appreciate everyone's time and the Acquire team for setting this up and giving me the opportunity and inviting me to speak. I am very grateful for that. My intention for today is to spend probably 30 odd minutes. We'll see how that goes. Just talking you through what's happening in Lenovo's neck of the woods in the PC space for 2026. So a look at the technology we're bringing into the portfolio, what the portfolio is going to look like. It's mid-refresh right now, so we're starting to see new models launching. So I'll give you a look at a few of those, and I'll tell you about the silicon platforms that we're using and just the stuff that's important to us throughout this year. Okay, so you'll get a flavor for that. And I love questions. Harder, yes. Easier. Of some of those too, you know, let those also filter through. If anyone wants to pop them in while we speak, then that would be awesome, and I might be able to answer them on the fly. Otherwise, there'll be time at the end as well. So a quick look here, just spending 1 minute to show you everything that Lenovo offers. So I put this in because although many of you might be familiar with Lenovo for PCs, you might not be familiar with everything else that we do. So this one pager does a good job of just showing the breadth of the offering. The images along the top are what we call our Pocket to Cloud portfolio, Pocket being the Motorola branded smartphones, through to PC products. Intelligent communication solutions are our meeting room solutions, huddle spaces, boardrooms, that kind of thing, then through to enterprise infrastructure. And then down the page are the complementary solution areas that you can talk to Lenovo and Acquire about anytime you like, whether they're financial services, managed project services, security offerings, or software licenses. Just a little FYI to kick us off. And then the second piece, and I didn't say this before, but I'm going to give a copy of the slides to anyone that wants them afterwards, so you can reference this later. And this second piece is just a nice little cheat sheet as to some of the answers to this why Lenovo question. I'm not going to go through it all, just in the interest of timeliness. But these 10 points, I think, really well capture how I would answer that question. Why Lenovo? Why Lenovo instead of any of the other brands that I have to choose from? And you know, just some of these points I'll talk to, but some of them would be, first of all, Lenovo is the market leader for PC products. You shouldn't care about that in and of itself, but you should care about what that enables for us and therefore in turn for you. So that enables a lot stronger investment into every single one of these other items, more R&D, more product breadth, more product depth, a stronger supply chain. We're able to give back through social initiatives, through environmental impact reduction initiatives more greatly because of our stronger market position. We're known for innovating. We're known for super reliable and durable products. Every ThinkPad that we bring to market is mill standard tested to the 810H testing regime. So that's 27 different durability tests that the products pass, whether they're an entry-level 13-inch 2-in-1 notebook or an ultra-premium X1 Carbon. They all pass the same durability standard. We're producing excellent user experience on every single product, including catering to users with hearing impairments, dexterity impairments, or vision impairments. There are examples in every single ThinkPad to each of those. So whether you've got users that have accessibility requirements or not, actually, this stuff is relevant for you, because these kind of enhancements, I like to say, they lift the baseline experience for all users, whether they have an accessibility requirement or not. In current times, in-house manufacturing and strong supply chain is actually a really noteworthy point, I think. So first of all, Lenovo is the only OEM still making our own stuff. We make our products in our Lenovo-owned factories, which means we have a great deal of control over the process, over the materials we use for manufacture, over the supply chain. And consistently, Gartner has ranked Lenovo as the strongest supply chain in our industry. So well beyond and well above all of our competitors. In AP alone, and by the way, Gartner's rankings span industries. They're not just for technology or manufacturing or anything else. So, you know, we beat pharmaceutical companies, we beat software companies, and the list goes on. And by the way, in AP alone, we typically rank in the top 2, usually the top supply chain in AP alone. So this is good at times like this where supply is constrained, where prices are volatile. What that ultimately means is Lenovo is probably better placed to buffer you, the customer, from those impacts as much as possible, compared to our competitors anyway. All right. In the interest of time, I'm just going to move forward. Now, getting onto the technology side, I'm going to use terms like NPU and Copilot plus PC a little bit going forward. So I thought I'd quickly define those. If you're not familiar with what an NPU is, you might have heard of a CPU and a GPU. And NPU is the newest version of these. These are processors, pieces of silicon on the motherboard that do calculations, right? This is how our computers run. And the NPU is short for Neural Processing Unit. This is the latest processor, and it's designed specifically for AI tasks, AI workloads, which is basically anything that's using an algorithm of different types. These sorts of tasks are prevalent these days. These workloads, as we call them, are prevalent. Whether you are actively aware of it or not, your systems are probably using AI to a strong degree every day. If you're in this webinar right now, you're seeing examples of AI tasks in action. I've got my background slightly blurred. Simon's got his fully blurred, and Anthony has a virtual background behind him. These are all different types of AI workloads running in real time. Okay, so that's why I say these are really prevalent, whether you're aware of them or not. So your systems will benefit from the presence of an NPU, because the NPU performs these tasks faster and more efficiently. So the task is done better, the outcome looks better, virtual background in this case looks better, and my battery lasts longer, which is, you know, what we all want. And I said Copilot plus PC. Let me define that for you as well. So if we think about the NPU that I just introduced you to, the way we talk about the performance levels of NPUs, because they're all different, is in terms of TOPS, TOPS. That's short for trillion operations per second. Now, an NPU with between 10 and 20 trillion operations per second capability is classified as an AI PC. An NPU with 40 or more trillion operations per second, that's a lot, by the way, is classified as a Copilot plus PC. A Copilot Plus PC means two things. First of all, a hell of a lot more TOPS than an AI PC, obviously, as you can see here. So that means the NPU can run faster, can do more things at the same time, is more future-proofed. The second thing a Copilot Plus PC means is that hardware will get exclusive access to features designed just for Copilot Plus PC. There are some Microsoft Windows features. Some of those are detailed here, or listed here in the bottom right-hand side, that are available right now, exclusive for Copilot Plus PC. Some of those are pretty interesting. Others are, I guess, nice to have or good demonstrations of what a Copilot Plus PC can do, if not groundbreaking. There is also development among the developer community happening right now from different brands, developing new titles or new features unique to Copilot Plus PC. So this is a little bit of a watch this space thing at the moment, but Copilot Plus PC is what most app developers are developing for as the future of PC, I suppose. So that's a little bit high level, but I'm going to leave it there. Feel free to ask questions if you want more depth than that. Now, this view shows us which processor platforms Lenovo is leaning into for 2026 in ThinkPad. The columns are the different platforms. So you'll see Intel Panther Lake is the first column. Cool name. Don't ask me how they get their names. This is the code name. In market, you'll see more likely Intel Core Ultra Series 3 being used. If you hear Panther Lake, just know it's the 2026 version of Intel's commercial mobile processor line. Some details here, I'll touch on a couple of items, not deeply though. You can see the NPU capability is 50 TOPS, 50 trillion operations per second, and therefore that is, as we discussed, a Copilot Plus PC. AMD, on the other hand, we're using two processor lines. So interestingly, we'll use the 2026 version, which is called Gorgon Point, okay? And it is a 55 TOPS NPU. And again, it is a Copilot Plus PC. So it's around 10% better NPU performance than the Intel Panther Lake. CPU and GPU performance, I don't have benchmarking yet for the respective brands. This is a watch this space, but that will be there. And if you don't see Gorgon Point referenced, you'll see Ryzen AI Pro or 400 referenced. And we'll offer an alternative as well. We'll offer AMD Hawk Point. This is the 2024 processor line from AMD. So it's what we call an N-2 processor. It's a 2-year-old processor. The reason we do this is because we expect that the CPU and the GPU performance of Hawk Point will be maybe nearly comparable to Gorgon Point. I know they're very wishy-washy words I just used, but they won't be dramatic steps down from Gorgon Point. They'll be competitive enough. The main difference here for Hawk Point is on the NPU. It's a 16 TOPS NPU only, and therefore is not a Copilot Plus PC. The upside of Hawk Point is because it's a 2-year-old processor, it will be cheaper than Gorgon Point. So Hawk Point becomes a really nice option if you are adamant that you don't need a Copilot Plus PC, if you are adamant that your adoption of AI tools and workloads will be relatively minimal for maybe the next 3 years. If none of that is happening, or if you want to keep your devices for 4 or 5 years, I would probably err on the side of make sure you go with a modern platform like Gorgon Point or Panther Lake, because I would be concerned that the 16 TOPS NPU in 4 or 5 years will be insufficient. Just my thoughts. And lastly, we will bring in the latest Qualcomm processor as well. What you will definitely see used in market is the brand name Snapdragon X2. You won't see MOA or Colombo used at all. Qualcomm don't use them. We, the OEMs, don't use those names. It'll just be Snapdragon X2. Currently, Snapdragon X is available, so X2 is the successor. It will have a whopping 80 TOPS NPU, gigantic capability, and of course, it will be a Copilot Plus PC. So that's a view of the processors that are coming in this year. And the next page lays that out in a really nice visual format. So I'll just go super quick through this because it's repeating the same information just in a different form. So I'll just build that out for you. Blue is Intel. You can see last year's 2025 processors, Lunar Lake and Arrow Lake, are both succeeded by Panther Lake, the one we just spoke about. Last year's Strix and Kraken Point processors are succeeded by Gorgon Point. Hawk Point continues through because remember that's a 2024 processor into 2026. And then Snapdragon X is succeeded by X2. So it's the same information just laid out in visual format if you'd like to use that. And now we get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So this is the ThinkPad portfolio on page, folks, for 2026. It's very busy. I'm going to talk through how it's laid out and how you can interpret the information on this page because it's really powerful once you know what to look for and where. So the first thing I'll do is step back and say, on the right-hand side, you can see all of that purple. Purple squares are the mobile workstation portfolio. If you're not familiar with what a workstation is when we use that term, it doesn't just mean a desktop PC. A workstation is the industry term for a more powerful PC. So that would be a combination of any of the following: a more powerful and faster CPU, a dedicated graphics card or a more powerful graphics card, a larger or higher resolution or both screen, a larger power supply. Usually they're built and designed with particular workloads and software titles in mind, and often the systems come with optional specialized driver packages unique to certain software applications to optimize the hardware for that software workload on that hardware. This is a very specialized conversation. Most customers, I like to use a rule of thumb, most customers need a workstation for, on average, 5% of their user base, because certain users are doing certain things that require more grunt or a special app or something like that. So never be closed to a workstation conversation, but they're specialized and they're a conversation. You know, I always recommend don't just buy off a spec sheet or a website, have a conversation with someone about that. And then on the left-hand side, so everything not purple would be the L series, the T series, the X, and the X1. We call this the notebook portfolio. So this is workstation. These are notebooks as well, technically, but this is the notebook class, not workstation class. And they're ordered from the bottom to the top like this: entry level, mainstream, premium, ultra premium. Think of it also as thickest and heaviest up to thinnest and lightest, simplest feature set with fewest options up to richest feature set with fanciest options, usually also cheapest up to most expensive. That's loosely a rule of thumb, okay? And like I said before, every ThinkPad on this page, whether it's an entry level, an ultra premium, or a workstation, is tested for mil standard 810H durability. It's commercial and enterprise grade, meaning we're only using enterprise grade components. Strong degree of recycled content, commercial grade services available, warranty types, warranty lengths, commercial grade available on every product here. So do not think because this is an entry level ThinkPad that it is any less of a ThinkPad than the rest, not at all. Now within each of these rectangles, we are talking about one model. So here the L14 Generation 7 is one model. We've got a picture of the product. In the bottom right, we've got the silicon options. So the L14 Generation 7 offers both AMD and Intel. By the way, the Qualcomm is hiding here behind the T14S image. You can see COM at the end of it. So that's the Qualcomm option. It's just a little bit hidden. In the bottom left, you can see these tags: updated, clean sheet, or new. An updated product is a product that we had on the range last year. We use the same chassis design as last year. We just make internal updates, like a new processor, for example. A clean sheet product is a product that we had on the range last year. We redesigned the chassis, so it's got a new chassis design. Usually it gets a bit thinner and or a bit lighter, and it has the internal updates as well. And then a new product is a product that we've never sold before. It hasn't been on the range before, it's new. So that's how you interpret those. And then in the top right corner, you'll see a Copilot logo. This tells you that this product can be configured as a Copilot Plus PC. And remember, Copilot Plus PC comes down to the type and performance of your NPU. Because you've got choice in a lot of cases around which processor, which NPU you configure with, you've got to, if you want a Copilot Plus PC, you've got to make sure you pick the NPU with more than 40 tops, 40 or more tops. Okay, so don't take this logo as a guarantee that every one of the L14 Generation 7 will be a Copilot Plus PC, just to make that very clear. So that's the sort of information you can glean from this page. Now, some of you that are familiar with Lenovo might, recognize some of these models. For example, the T14 is our best-selling ThinkPad every year. So many of you might have even used a T14. So Generation 7 is the version that is coming for 2026. The X1 Carbon is probably our best known ThinkPad by name. It becomes Generation 14. And then my personal favorite, the T14S Generation 7, is our second best-selling ThinkPad every year. And I like it because it's the only ThinkPad that offers both all of Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm all in the one chassis. It becomes Generation 7 as well. I'm going to dive into those three products for you in a bit more detail to show you a bit more about them from now. And again, drop those questions in the Q&A box, folks, if there is anything that you want me to answer along the way or at the end.
Just on that, Joe, there is one in the chat at the moment, but I think you are going to cover it with the T14 and T14S. Just a question around the difference between the two there.
Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. I will cover that now, actually, Ant, since you mentioned it, because this view gives us both on the same page. So it's an excellent question, actually. And to be fair, I probably should have mentioned that sooner. So the answer is the difference between the two is S. I like to just fall back on, this is not the official answer, but I like to fall back on S stands for slim. So it's a slim version of the T14 in my mind. And what that means is it's thinner than the T14, it's lighter than the T14. And to achieve those two things, it means it has soldered memory on the T14S, whereas the T14 has changeable slotted memory, upgradable memory. The T14S also doesn't offer you an RJ45 socket on the side. It's too thin, won't fit one. The T14 does offer you an RJ45 socket. So there are pros and cons of going each way. If you wanted a thinner and lighter version, you'd go with the T14S. If you wanted upgradable memory or an RJ45 socket, you'd go with the T14. The T14S is a slight bit more expensive, so that might also influence your decision. My boss actually said S should stand for sport mode, because it's thinner and lighter. Maybe that's a cooler way instead of slim and light to think about it. But I hope that at a high level answers the question.
Just so, Joe, while we're on that, in that same question, they've referred to the effect of the global shortage in delivery time to New Zealand, global CPU shortage, but I guess that's a very fluid situation that we're working through at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. In other words, are they asking which one is better supply?
What is the effect of the global chip shortage in delivery time to New Zealand?
Sure. Okay. The short answer to that from my viewpoint is, New Zealand is no more or less affected than any of the other countries or regions. Where Australia and New Zealand, I'm in Australia, by the way, don't hold it against me, please. We are both Australia and New Zealand serviced by the same supply chain and route out of China. So the impact varies product by product and spec by spec. And it also changes month by month. So yeah, you use the word fluid, Ant, and that's exactly the way to put it. It is very fluid. I would always fall back on, generally speaking, my observations in working with partners like Acquire and customers like yourselves is that Lenovo seems to be doing a little bit better than the other brands in mitigating the impact right? But that impact is not mitigated all the way to zero, quite frankly. Have a conversation with us as soon as possible, as soon as you think you might need anything, even if it's just advice, because we'll help you plan, we'll help you figure out ways that you can further mitigate the impact of whatever those volatilities are. That would be my advice. It's the best answer I can give. Ant, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think just touching on that, I mean, Joe mentioned earlier on about our supply chain that we operate. We do have a best-in-class supply chain, and with that, it gives us very good visibility to what we have available, and we can see, it sounds a bit cliche, but see into the future. So we have a supply chain analytics, so we know what we've got sort of forward ordered with the OEMs that we can be bringing into the country, so we can almost sort of demand steer, I guess, and point you into the right direction of what's going to have better supply versus what you might eventually or originally be wanting. There may be a better option that is readily available. So it is about just having that conversation with us.
Good man. And thank you for asking, folks, because it's very relevant. So more than happy for those kinds of questions.
Just while we are talking silicon
yeah,
at the
go
moment,
ahead.
Joe, there's another one popped in.
Sure.
In your opinion, do you get more out of an AMD or an Intel model for general use?
Okay,
That's a tricky one.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm fine. I'm always happy to give my honest opinion. And I do have a very clear opinion on this. So this is just purely based on what I've observed over, it's probably 4 going on 5 years now of both my work with customers like yourself, so first-hand accounting, and an aggregation of all of the independent benchmarking and testing and stuff like that I just read from week to week that comes from all over the globe, right? Typically what we see, and I will also caveat, I haven't seen any of that benchmarking for the 2026 product lines yet, nor have I seen any advanced release from either AMD or Intel around this stuff yet for 2026. So the picture that I'm about to give you is, the answer I'm about to give you is from the past to now. And I don't know for 2026 what the dynamic will be like, I have to say, hand on heart. But generally speaking, for 4 going on 5 years now, AMD has been the performance leader in CPU, GPU, NPU, and efficiency, which usually equates to battery life. So in my mind, they are the 4 only things that we care about from a silicon provider. And AMD has consistently outperformed Intel for the past 4 to 5 years in all of those spaces. I didn't mention price. I did not mention price. Not to say that we don't care about price, but price largely, value is more important than price, I think I would put it that way. My observation around price points are that in the last few years, AMD seem to be making an effort to be more comparable to Intel in terms of price. But every now and then you do get a blip where AMD comes in a little bit cheaper than Intel. Up until a few years ago, AMD was consistently cheaper than Intel. But nowadays, I just would default back to think of them as being more often than not on par in terms of price, give or take a very small margin. So that's the dynamic up until now. How that might change in 2026, I have no view yet. I have an expectation, but I don't want to just speculate, to be honest. The interesting one for me to watch is Qualcomm as well. Qualcomm is a different architecture. I know this wasn't part of the question, but just a little sprinkle on top from me in the answer. Qualcomm, different architecture, so it's a different conversation. We have to check application compatibility, that sort of thing. And that, up until recently, has been a not insignificant part of the consideration. The app compatibility side of things is getting markedly better. Their technology is phenomenal. So we're talking battery life of more real world battery life of more than 20 hours on a PC, stuff that probably none of us on this call have ever seen before in practice, whilst having really snappy performance, very, very good performance. So once that app compatibility side of things is acceptable, then I think Qualcomm becomes a phenomenal option for us as well. So watch this space. The new version of Qualcomm comes out in June in ThinkPad. So I'm really interested to see how that performs too. Hope that answers the question well. Okay, so I'll quick fire through a few of these. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Simon, I think we've got 15 minutes left, but I do want to leave some time for questions at the end. So I'll do quick fire through 3 products, the Carbon, the T14 and the T14S, calling out a few interesting points. Yeah. And then again, I'll leave these slides with you. So, you know, I won't cover all of this. You can see it's a busy slide again. I won't cover all of it, but you can refer back to it afterwards if you wish, and then ask follow-up questions. So this is the X1 Carbon Generation 14. This is the 2026 model. It has recently launched. Okay, so it's in market, available now. I'll orient you around this page because they all look like this, these product pages. Think of them in quadrants. The top left quadrant is the product image. The bottom left quadrant is the roadmap in calendar format. So you can see the quarters along the top, calendar year quarters with 2026, the months. The Generation 13, last year's model, all the way through this year is planned availability with a hard stop at the end of this year. That's why it's a stop. That's why it's a flat line instead of an arrow going into next year. That's the planned availability for the Gen 13. The Gen 14 is already in market. Lenovo always tries to have at least 6 months overlap between the current model and the incoming model to give you folks, the customers, time to transition from the current model to the next model at your pace. Availability of stock and components and all that stuff will impact availability of the different models, and that will vary model by model, like I said before. So what I'm giving you now is a rule of thumb, and then, you know, whatever circumstances we happen to be exposed to at the time, you have to factor in as well. Best way to understand all that is just to have a conversation with us. On the right-hand side, I'm just moving my video, so don't ignore my cursor for a second. On the right-hand side here, in the top right, you've got what's new with this product. So it's bullet points calling out some noteworthy items. I'll touch on a couple of those. In the bottom right, you've got a table with the datasheet specs. So these row headings are pretty easy to understand. Just know that some of these things are still TBC because we haven't confirmed. This product, for example, has just gone into production very recently. And we always benchmark battery performance on a production grade device. So we wouldn't publish this until we've had devices rolling off the production line consistently that we can then bench test for battery life. So some of this stuff might be TBC, the rest is pretty well confirmed. So what's interesting about the Carbon? Why am I highlighting this? Aside from it's got a great name, it's also our 3rd most popular product every single year. In fact, even though it's an ultra premium product with a relatively high price point, there are customers out there that, because of the experience of the Carbon, because it's such a good experience, this device, they will make the effort and spend the money to standardize across their fleet on this product. It's that popular. What happens with it this year? Because it is a clean sheet product, as you can see up here. It is a new chassis, just to remind what that means. So it's a brand new design. Visually, it might look very similar to the old design. We want that consistency, so that's intentional. But architecturally, a couple things change that are very important. First of all, it gets much thinner. So it loses 1-point-something millimeters of thickness. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I can tell you this is the 2nd thinnest ThinkPad we've ever made. 14 millimeters is very thin. If you get the chance to look at one yourself in person, you'll realize in the hand, it feels just crazy thin. Almost, I don't want to say paper thin because that's an exaggeration, but it really is dramatically thin, whilst remaining under 1 kilo. So it's roughly the same weight as it was last year, last iteration. 990 odd grams, whilst being 14 millimeters thin, whilst offering you a full suite of ports. So 3 USB-C ports, a USB-A port, a full-size HDMI port, the audio combo port, the Kensington locking port, all in the chassis, whilst being mill standard tested, whilst being a commercial grade device with really premium connectivity and feature options. So, you know, it doesn't give up something like LTE, for example, just to get that little bit thinner. It still supports LTE, 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi 7, etc. So it's a really, really, really great engineering achievement to get it this thin while still offering all the other things. The other thing architecturally that the new chassis offers is a new internal packaging design. So the stuff under the hood, under the keyboard there in the chassis, everything's packaged a little bit differently. So we use a smaller motherboard design that lets us have more space under the keyboard for other things like bigger fans, so better cooling. That lets us do things like turn up the processor performance. So you can see 30W here in the top corner. That stands for 30 watts. That's the power profile of the processor. The higher, the faster, basically. A typical power profile across the industry is between 15 and 22 watts. This product last year, I think it was 21.5 watts or 22, one of those. At 30 watts, it is absolutely industry leading. It is ridiculously fast. And that will be noticeable to the user in terms of the snappiness of the CPU and the overall system performance. No trade-off in terms of battery power because we make the battery physically bigger because, again, we've got more space in there. We make the battery physically bigger to accommodate that extra power. Better cooling, so we keep it cooler, which means also the battery performance is optimized as well. More heat means worse battery performance. And we also put bigger speakers in there, so the audio performance gets better as well. It was already a really good audio package powered by Dolby and our exclusive partnership with Dolby. Bigger speakers means even better audio performance. And then the last thing architecturally we change is we make a significant step forward in terms of repairability on our systems. Repairability has been a focus for Lenovo for the past 2 years. So we partner with an independent group called iFixit. If you don't know them, feel free to Google iFixit, IFIXIT. And they're just an independent body that likes to review and then rate the repairability and upgradability of different systems. So we partnered with them in developing our new designs over the past couple of years, with the goal being to get 10 out of 10 for every ThinkPad. We don't get 10 out of 10 for every ThinkPad, just to be fully transparent with you guys. We get at least 9 out of 10 on ThinkPad. I can tell you that's far better than the other brands are offering. How do we do that? It's a number of ways. First of all, on the hardware side, we make things like the keyboard replaceable. You can see here, the keyboard is replaceable in about 3.5 minutes, and you only have to touch 6 screws to do that. The battery is customer replaceable. The USB-C ports are customer replaceable. Other things like the Wi-Fi card, the SSD, etc., all also customer replaceable, and they have been for a long time. But by the way, when I say customer replaceable, I'm not saying you guys go out and do your own repairs from now on. No, we give you a warranty, we'll do the work. You'll get a net impact because that'll be faster and more reliable for us to repair your systems. You'll get better uptime out of that. But there are plenty of times where our customers have problems with their systems that aren't covered under warranty. Take the USB port, for example. If your user is too rough with the cable, they break the USB port, that's not covered under warranty. In the past, or with other brands, a USB port is part of the motherboard. The CPU is part of the motherboard. The memory is part of the motherboard. And a motherboard is like open heart surgery. It's a complex replacement. Sorry if you've got background noise coming through. I've got construction happening next door. But a USB port means a catastrophic failure, actually, a very expensive repair and a time-consuming one. Contrast that against an X1 Carbon, where now you can take 4 screws off the bottom. you get access to the USB ports. 3 screws release the USB ports. They pop out, a small little component like this. You pop the new one in, 3 screws go back in there, and then 4 screws put the bottom cover back on, and you're done. No BitLocker keys to worry about because you've swapped motherboards. No figuring out if it's commercially viable to do a repair or buy a new whole system and write the old one off and then wait for the new one to come in with supply times. It's a much better scenario. That's how you'll get the impact of better repairability. And that improvement and that whole ethos extends across the other products as well. So I know I've spent some time on Carbon. The T14S and the T14 get that goodness as well, folks. So the T14S is shown here. I highlight this product because it's dramatic. It's also a clean sheet, right? And its dramatic change is in weight this year. So the T14S, got to fly here, sorry. The T14S can be as light as 1.1 kilograms this year, whilst still being really thin, whilst still offering you a full suite of ports, the mil standard 810H durability testing, the other goodness like the USB port, keyboard, battery replaceability, all that sort of jazz, right, that I talked about before. Its TDP is slightly lower. Its power profile is slightly lower than the Carbon at 25 watts. That's because it's a thin chassis. Cooling system's different, so it can't quite do what the Carbon is designed to do. Plus engineering effort and investment. Quite happy to spend more on the Carbon because it's a higher or more premium price point, whereas this is more of a mainstream price point. Okay, so we don't want to pass on that cost to the T14S consumer as dramatically. And then the T14, pardon me, is here. Its noteworthy change is it also gets 7% lighter compared to last year. Not as light as the T14S. You can see it's 1.29 kilos in its lightest form compared to 1.1 kilos. So there is a notable difference. That's more than the weight of your phone, just to give you some context. But what's noteworthy here is it's offering you color options. So you can see a blue T14 in the background here behind. So black and blue, Thunder Black or Cosmic Blue, I think it's called. Yeah, Cosmic Blue are your color options. Blue is a beautiful color, I have to say. I've seen it in person. So it's a really fantastic option. And again, the T14 has a slightly thicker chassis as well. That actually aids cooling. So on the T14, we can bump up the TDP back to 30 watts. Because it's a thicker chassis than the T14S, airflow is greater. So cooling is better, and therefore performance will be that much higher on T14 compared to T14S. Some of the ways, again, that we differentiate the two. Last thing I'll call out here is on the T14, if you look at the memory section here, we're using Gorgon Point. That's the 2026 AMD offering. It is capable of up to 96 gigabytes of memory. Mega for a notebook class commercial mobile product, okay? And dual sodium means there's slotted memory. It's changeable or upgradable memory as well, just a reminder, okay? So a couple minutes to go. I'm going to park that. This is the end of my presentation, but hopefully not the conversation. I'm quite happy to hang around for another few minutes to have some further conversation, answer questions, etc. But otherwise, I hope you found this interesting, folks, and I really appreciate you putting those questions in and staying until now. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Danica. Simon, back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Joe. I think did we answer Sunny's question, the last question?
What makes the Carbon series better than HP EliteBooks?
I was actually just typing a response up to that.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I was,
Cool.
but we can throw live to you, Joe, now if you
Yeah, sure. So off the top of my head, if we think about the HP EliteBook, we have to be specific about which EliteBook we're comparing to. The most popular EliteBook is the EliteBook 8. The EliteBook 8 is comparable in terms of thickness, weight, price point, and feature offering or spec offering to something like a T14, okay? To get something closer to an X1 Carbon, you have to go to an EliteBook X. An EliteBook X generally will be thicker, will be heavier, definitely. As for which spec options, I'm not sure because I haven't seen the 2026 version, but generally thickness and weight are the two major differentiation areas. And I'm trying to think of port offerings as well off the top of my head. I'm guessing at this point, but I have a feeling that available ports on the EliteBook X will also be a point of difference in favor of the X1 Carbon, but I can't remember the specifics. That's the best I can do off the top of my head. But if you've got anything else parked, Ant, please feel free to drop that in as well.
That was a lot better than what my description I was typing up was going to be anyway.
It's all good. It's all good. What I will say to augment that answer is, typically the Lenovo Premier Support and Premier Support Plus warranty offerings tend to differentiate Lenovo against HP, generally speaking. So it's not a specific EliteBook versus Carbon question or answer, but Lenovo versus HP answer. I'd put that in there for consideration as well. So the Carbon can have that Premier warranty offering, the EliteBook can't. So
yeah.
So I
I'm
see
glad
the
you
questions.
mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh, go on, Simon. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because the Lenovo with the premium support is a really, really good offer. Is there another
Agreed.
question? I don't think so.
I think
So-
that's it for questions.
I think I managed to cover most of them.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ant. Look, I know we've gone slightly over time. We do have some prizes to draw, so if you have to drop off, that's fine. You'll still be eligible to win a prize. So should I just quickly do that live now? I shall share my screen.
All right, here it comes. Ooh,
Okay,
The
here
wheel.
it comes. The wheel is back. Okay. So
Ooh.
first up, we have a Lenovo mobile monitor worth $599.
This is my can't leave home without it accessory, actually. So whoever's
Oh,
going to win
good,
this is in for a
that's
good one.
cool.
There you go. Congratulations, Catfer. And then we have some docks, Lenovo docks. So we've got two of those. So I'll quickly draw those. Ooh, gets close.
Ooh.
Congratulations, Joanne. And last one. Here we go, Murdered. Congratulations.
Fantastic. That's well done. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We do have our in-house Lenovo expert. I think Joe has been wonderful for us today, and we look forward to assisting you with your inquiries and, of course, helping you procure better.
Thanks, team.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate the
Thanks,
time.
Ant.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have
everybody.
a great day.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.